Hello, it's Bart from NatureManufacture. In this tutorial, I will show you how to play with our reverse splines. Basically, it's not only about the rivers, it could be road or path, anything. So, to create a reverse spline, we choose plus 3D object, NatureManufacture, and we must click create reverse spline. With control, we place points on the colliders, for example, on the terrain. With Control Shift, we could remove any point. With Shift, we could add point between points. Okay. Of course, you could move these points, rotate, and so on. After we place points, we have to choose profile, or we could create profile for such a spline just to get a replicated effect multiple times. If we define a river or a road profile, we could simply read it and use it again and again. So let's, for example, choose a profile, maybe asphalt road. Let's adjust a bit options for tutorial goals. Okay. So if we have a mesh information like mesh triangle density, if we go to the wireframe, we may notice that our spline have a density. We could increase it, decrease it in every axis. We could do this locally as well. If we will choose, for example, point 3, and we increase the density locally, we could get such an effect. Okay. So that's about the mesh density. Of course, you could change width of the road or add noises. Why not? And another option is that such a spline have a mesh curve. If we let's restart to the profile first. If we go to the spline mesh curve, you could see that I can edit the spline shape by curve. And there is a Vertex distribution option, which also allow us to move the whole density of the mesh into specific border or direction. It's mostly useful for roads, to be honest, because we don't need VEDs on the whole road. For example, on asphalt road, we only need it on the border, just because we want to accent this border, right? Okay. You could see that it's curved. Okay, so that's about the mesh curve. Let's change the profile, for example, to mountain road, and we may notice that there is an option snap and unsnap to the terrain mesh. In such a way, we could snap our spline to the terrain and even take normals from it per vertex or per point. In this case, basically in this road, we made such a shader and set up that if the road is on the slope, it starts to generate rocks, for example. That's why information about normals is useful in this case, right? Because if we have a shader that uses vertex color, and for example, in our spline, we paint vertex colors by slope, we could read the slope and place different effects, right, on the mesh, on the material. So, for example, add water, slope generate waterfalls. But for the road, we said that slope generates rocks. So in fact, if we have a slope on the road, actually we place rocks. So the slope is a mask for the road. Okay. So we could snap our spline into the terrain, and we could take normals from the terrain. Of course, we have a also slider, the lerp between spline normals and the background normals. I mean the terrain normals in this case. So we could adjust that a bit. You have a bit more control over the spline. Next setting is UV settings. We could tile or decrease tiling of the texture on the river spline. For example, from this road we could create path, right? Just change the width into 1 or maybe 1.5 meter, and we have a path. We probably would have to change the path of the mesh just to create nice path, right? It's up to you. So that's why we could change the tilling on the spline surface. Okay, so about the fixed tilling option. If you scale the mesh, the spline locally or globally, you may notice that the texture becomes stretched. The UV becomes stretched. Of course, you could fix this tilling. So if you will even scale the mesh, the tilling will remain the same. It's useful, for example, for paths where you have bricks, and even if you scale the spline, you want to hold the shape of the bricks unstretched. For river, it may be useful, it depends, but rather for lava and paths. Remember, if you use fixed tilling, you have a lerp for this effect, but the most important thing is that fixed tilling doesn't work with multiple connected splines. I mean, you will, as each spline have own UV and they become merged together in another, for example, in new spline. With fixed tilling, it won't work. So it's option for non-connected spline. Another option is inverted UV direction. Invert UV direction. So you could invert the direction, or you could rotate UV on the spline. Rotate UV is useful for textures, for different textures, because, for example, here we have a path which is horizontal, but you could have a vertical texture. So if you have a vertical texture, you could rotate UV. So this option is useful to handle multiple texture directions, which you will use on the spline. Okay. Next is a lighting setting. Let's unsnap our spline. You see you could choose retrieve or casting shadows, reverse and snap path to the terrain. Shouldn't cast shadows because it's First of all, it's waste of the sources, the GPU sources, but simply, for example, river doesn't cast shadow, and such a snap material path shouldn't cast shadow as well. Okay, so that's all about the lighting. Let's maybe play with river connections now. To show you how the river connection works, let me create few rivers. Let's create spline. Okay. Let's move up a bit this point. Let's call this spline number as a number 1. And what we have here? We choose a profile. So we have nice river out of the box. And first of all, we could split the river at the end. For example, in point section, we could simply click. It was split spline into 2, or per point. Let's split spline into 2. So we get 2 splines at the end. You see the name become generated from the first spline. We could do this like that, and you see that it's automatically connected, but maybe let's choose a more difficult option for tutorial. So let's copy this spline, remove all points, let's place few points, let's duplicate this spline, and have such an effect. And let's duplicate the spline again, remove all points, and place a third spline called as 4. What we do now? This is mother spline. The river is the main river. For example, it hit a rock and it split into 2. Why not? So in child river, we choose beginning of the spline as a river 1. We choose how many V resolution spent on this child. We could move it. We do the same for the second child. We choose an okay, and we have such a situation. What next? Let's connect these rivers again, because we always love difficult situations. So what we do? At these child splines, we choose the ending spline as a 4. We choose same p values, and we do the same for river number 2. Let's do the same. And what we have here now? We have a seamless connection between rivers. We split river into 2 rivers and we connect them again. In fact, we could, for example, connect totally different rivers in a same way. For example, we have one river, it's split or not, it doesn't matter. For example, we could do not split it, and we connect it again into another river. And every this connection is seamless. Okay, to be honest, this kind of connections, spline connections, works only when you have the same material on each river. But if, for example, we have a totally different totally different materials on the river. Let's choose maybe other material. Maybe let's make like always we love difficult situation. Let's maybe take swamp river. So yeah, that's totally different material. In such a cases, we choose a mesh painting, vertex color. We set alpha to 0. Let's paint only alpha color, and we simply blend rivers by vertex color, right? So you could really blend totally different materials. Remember that these rivers in HTRP have a sorting priority. So the river which comes and overlay other river must have a higher sorting priority than river which will be child. In URP, you have a render queue on material at the bottom. In HTRP, you have a sorting priority. So remember about that value to get proper blending. You see that we blend swamp shader. It's totally different shader. We blend swamp river into normal river. Okay, so that's about river connection. We close this case. Of course, you could manage pivot of the river. You could split river into submeshes because, for example, if river is too big, for example, to do not cross 30 or 40,000 triangles, you could split it into submeshes. So each river will have a river in paths, right? You could set up how many paths you want to have in the river, right? Of course, the same thing you could do in by splitting into multiple splines, because for example you could hold everything in one spline, but you could split into two splines, for example, at specific points. Let's choose point 3 and let's split spline. So we have a two spline which are automatically connected, right? You see. Okay, so that's the river connections. There is a very important option called layers. Basically, uh, if you snap your spline to colliders, it may happen that multiple objects also cross with spline, and you don't want to use their collision for snapping. So in this situation, you could exclude this layer from detection. So you will avoid such a situation like you have here. Remember also, this layers panel is also used, for example, for terrain carving and terrain painting. So if terrain layer will be excluded from the layers, simply Spline will do not detect it, so it will not carve and paint it. Points panel. You may notice that you have a full information about points in this panel. You could manage them as well. You could move them up or down, left, right. You could add a point or between points, or remove them. So if you rotate the point, you have rotation values which you could clear. Full control over this point. You could even snap the spline between specific points. I mean, only part of the spline could be snapped to the collision. So you don't have to snap all points. You could just snap one. In mesh curve, you could just change the spline shape just between specific points as well. So you could just, add some additional effects, noises, just in a specific area. You could split spline in this panel in a specific point. You could split spline into fork as well. So we'll get two spline from that point. You could increase the resolution of the spline locally, which is mostly useful when you use mesh curve or you want to vertex paint something. I mean, when the spline have not enough verts because you want to keep low amount of triangles at the whole spline, but you want to paint something, you want to add some details in a specific place, you could do this by increasing the resolution of the spline locally exactly in that place. So, for example, like we have here, after we increase the resolution of the spline, we could manage its shape much more accurate. Yeah, that's all about the points. Let's go to the mesh painting. Okay, first option in mesh painting is vertex color. Basically, if you will look on this spline, you may notice that all these waterfalls and small cascades are placed automatically by slope. You could modify this by using vertex color. Basically, you could add any effect that is supported by shader and material, and it depends on the vertex color. So let's maybe paint G channel, and you will notice that I place small cascades. If I will paint B channel, I place waterfalls. If I will paint by R channel in this shader, I will simply remove the foam. By A channel, I can blend transparent materials together or simply paint transparency. Yeah, and there is an option called draw on multiple. This is a very important option because you have multiple splines connected and you want to paint something and it happened that it's on the connection. So with this option checked, you paint on these splines like they are one. So you don't get any strange effects on their connection. Just vertex color is or any other paintings like Flowmap or Map painting is painted properly on both spline at the same time. So yeah, that's all about these options. And maybe let's go and look on the vertex color automatic setup. Beside the manual vertex color painting, you have also vertex color automatic system, which basically will paint vertex color by slope. For example, in that road, if we increase R channel, rocks will start to appear at our road. So it's useful for rivers, for roads. It depends on you how you will use it, but you could paint vertex color by slope automatically. The idea is that the value close to 1 means flat area, so the normals are straight up, because here we have a normal value, word normal value, and here we have a vertex color value. So close to 0, it's big slope, close to 1, it's flat area. So that's all about vertex colors. Let's go to the Flowmap. In Flowmap panel, you're able to find the speed of the river. You have an automatic and manual Flowmap painting. Basically, you have to remember that if you paint any Flowmap, you have to do this very softly. Maybe let's paint a directional Flowmap first. But remember, hard flow map changes, you will get stretched result. That's why you always have to paint it softly. You have a flow map debug where you see speed and direction of the flow map. So let's maybe explain which option you have to in painting flow map. First of all, direction. So you could paint the direction of the flow map. Let's do this softly, maybe. So you choose the flow map direction, you paint it in such a way. You have also attraction option and opposite repulsion option, mostly used for flakes, I would say. And you have a smudge option. Basically, with smudge, the system will follow your mouse and create flow map by your line that you create during this movement. So you could find different directions. See, with better and worse result. It depends from you how fast you move your mouse, because the faster you move your mouse, the faster it will generate the flow. The faster each flow map it will generate. You of course have a speed multiplier, so you could paint it more softly. It's just setup that will help you to get best result. If you don't want, if you want to super fast flow map, but you don't want to move mouse so fast, you just increase the speed multiplier. Okay, so this is a flow map that is painted manually. Let's restart it. But we have also flow map that is painted automatically by default by River, and it's saved in profile. First of all, you have a curve for flat area and waterfalls. Let's maybe focus on waterfalls because it will be more visible. Let's increase or decrease the waterfall speed in the middle. Let's maybe say 1. You see that it increases speed of waterfall, and you have a control. It's the left or right side of the spline, and here's the middle. So you could, for example, find something like that. Maybe you see it change the flow map. We could move the flow map fast if we could find fast flow map on the left side and slow flow map on the right side. Right. So you have a automatic flow map as well. There is a flow map physics option. It's used basically for physical objects, because when you place an object with our buoyancy script, it will flow on the water surface with flow map direction and speed. Basically, speed on the flow map is from 0 to 1 or -1 to 1. So you multiply it by this value just to get nice realistic effect that, for example, this box will fall and move faster on the waterfall and move slower on the flat area. Yeah, so that's all about the flow map, and let's play with Vertex High. Okay, Vertex High. There is also manual and automatic option. Let's start maybe from automatic. First of all, you could add noise to your river automatically. It gives more natural result. For example, here, you could modify its scale, but the most important feature in the Vertex noise is that you could manage it by slope. What does it mean? For flat area, you set low noise because there are no rocks, water doesn't move so fast, so it doesn't bump the water surface. But when the waterfall appear, you increase the noise of the shape. But when the water is the slope is close to uh, 90 degrees, so the water simply moves down by gravity only, we remove the noise. How does it looks? We see that if we increase the noise, it only appear on the slopes. Okay. But besides that, you could add this noise manually. You could also change the river shape by marker. You could increase the height of the beds and generate waterfalls on holes manually. So you have a full control over the river shape. You could accent rocks and so on. We'll add this as an automatic tool uh, soon, so now the river will detect all shapes on the its surface and bump or make holes. But until that, now we have a manual painting for this. Yeah, I would say it's game changer for waterfalls because you simply could paint really nice noise effects on them, or just accent some rocks that water avoid. If you will connect that with Flowmap, you could create really beautiful waterfalls. Okay, so that's all about mesh painting. Let's go to simulation and terrain. Okay, if you want to play with carving and terrain painting, let's maybe create a new river for that. Let's choose a water profile. Let's change it width so it will become bigger. Create small waterfall. And let's go to the terrain panel. And what we have here, first of all, we have a carving and painting and manage foliage options. All these settings are saved in profiles, which could be the same profiles could be used in rivers, lakes, sea, everything, and terrain painting tools as well. Separate terrain painting tools. So you build rules about carving and painting once, and you share them between multiple our spline objects. So how it works? First of all, you have for carving, you have a debug mode. So you will see how the river will shape terrain when you click carve. You have a curve that will from the side of the river into the middle. This is river width. So if we have a river which is width 10, we will get this part of the spline. If it's bigger, then we'll get, for example, this part of the spline. So we have terrain curve for carving. You could add noise. So the result will be not so generic. You could, if you carve, you also carve area outside the spline to get nice spline borders. So first of all, you have an option how far you will find this and how is the smooth between the goal terrain carve values and the existing terrains. So you have plenty options to handle carving, and of course you have a brush quality. We rather advise you to use medium because you really don't need high resolution carving as terrain. The carving result depends on the terrain resolution as well, so it's not worth to use high resolution of terrain carving. Okay, so let's maybe click carve and we get nice river borders. What now? Let's maybe go to the painting panel and we have layers here. And these layers are contain information about the textures and painting rules. We're able to paint river bed and river borders by them. You could replace the textures and use the same rules. So if you have other textures on the terrain, you could use these rules as well. If we click paint, you will see that the rock become painted on the river borders, on the slopes, while the sand is between these rocks. We could turn off this layer and turn it on. It depends on you which rules you will be using. If you will open each rule, you will see that there's a power option, and this power is related to river borders. I mean, the left side of the spline is a simply border of the spline, while the right side of the spline is its middle. And basically, you are able to paint each layer separately, even outside the spline. To do this, you would have to modify the spline. I mean, the left side, which is currently near 0, you will have to expand to minus values. For example, if you will expand this value, let's edit it, maybe to -5, we will paint 5 meters more from the river border. And this setup is per layer. So for example, you could paint the sand in a longer distance. There are other layers. For example, rocks will stay the same as they are. So this really give you ability to customize your terrain in relation to your river. What else? You could paint by height. So only after specific height, texture will appear. You could paint, for example, like this rocks, by slope. So texture will appear only on specific slope, like we did with this rock. And there are noises, of course. So you could mix layers together, for example, two kinds of sand, and a very powerful option, which is convex and concave. But maybe this option for river is not so important. It's rather for the whole terrain because it analyzes the terrain in a, I would say, bigger area and find convex and concave shapes. So it places rocks on the tops and, for example, other grass texture in the holes. And this option have blur options, there's number of steps, and I will explain that option in splines, terrain splines, which are also I would say they are designed for terrain painting, but I will not explain this in this tutorial because in fact to get nice effect from this concave and convex shapes, you would have to analyze bigger area, and River does not generate this kind of shapes, so it's mostly for global terrain painting. You could see that the shapes generated by River are rather smooth, but if you will find the object that's called automatic terrain painter, global or local, you will see that it has bigger range, and it has the same rules as the river lakes, and mm, I will explain the whole idea of it in a separate tutorial. Maybe not now. Let's say that besides that you could paint the terrain, you're able to remove foliage from the river bed and outside of it. For example, you could remove grass or trees in a specific distance. Yeah, that's all about the terrain. I think now we will focus on the simulation. Okay, let's talk about simulation. First of all, we create repair spline. We set up one point. We choose profile. We set up line width, for example, to 7. We go to simulation panel, and let's see what will happen. First of all, we will have debug mode, which shows you how river will look like with current setting. You could manage the length of the river simulation, the distance between spline points, and how often we sampling the collision under the spline. And there are options which are could break the spline if it will meet, for example, small hill. You could use this option or not. You could add out of the box noise river into the noise into the river, but maybe let's leave smaller values of the noise. And after you are happy from result, you click generate and you get nice river. What now? You go to terrain panel, you click Carve, you click Find, and you have a nice river which follow terrain shape out of the box. Okay, so it's all for this tutorial. And if you have any questions, just catch us on Discord or by email, and we will explain everything. So, yeah, see ya.